UFC 270 is here, and I'm going to be dropping my plays in both the main event, Francis Ngannou versus Gane, and my max play is actually in the Brandon Moreno versus Figueiredo matchup. So let's get started. Let's talk about Francis Ngannou and Gane, right? Francis opened up closer to a favorite and is now as high as a plus 130 underdog with Gane as a minus 150 favorite. That tells you how much respect Vegas and odds makers are given to Gane, who really is unlike anything we've ever seen before. The man's 6'4", 250 pounds, can move like he's Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, right? He's jumping up and down on his feet, moving side to side. He's a kickboxer. He can jab. He can strike. It's incredible what we've seen out of him. In this fight, the way I look at it is Gane, I believe, should be the favorite here. And the reason is styles and matchups make fights, right? So when I think about this fight, there's really no one in the entire UFC in the heavyweight division that is more of a mismatch for Francis in this fight, right? We saw what Gane was able to do to Derek Lewis, and honestly, that doesn't mean a ton to me because when I look at Derek Lewis and when I look at Francis, yes, they both possess one-punch knockout power, but at this stage in their careers, Francis is a much better all-around fighter. So I'm going to throw that out. However, with that said, when you see what Francis did to Stipe, he slept him with that left hook. It wasn't because Francis was being aggressive. We now see the most patient Francis we've ever seen, and that's a reason why I'm going to give you this pick here coming up. But with Francis and the amount of patience he's been able to show in his previous last couple fights, it's a scary, scary sight, right? When he's not gassing himself out early, he's not swinging for the fences. The only reason he knocked out Stipe in that second round is because Stipe thought that he caught him and he charged in on Francis, and then Francis hit him with that left hook and put his lights out. Gane is an incredibly smart fighter. This man is not going to charge in on Francis. He's going to pester him for multiple rounds. My official pick for this fight, I'm going over 2.5 rounds. I believe that Gane will get a late finish in this fight because he will pester and frustrate Francis over the course of 3, 4, 5 rounds. And I believe get a finish. My prediction is a late finish in that 4th round. But I love the over of 2.5 rounds for one main reason. Francis is much more patient than he used to be, and we know Gane possesses insane patience. So when you look at this fight, you're like, hey, Matt, 2 heavyweights, and I can get the under of 2.5 rounds. That sounds like a no-brainer. But there's a reason this over-under is 2.5 and not 1.5. I mean, Francis has 8 first-round knockouts in the UFC. 8. Why is the over-under not 1.5 then, right? That's why, is because both fighters actually possess great patience. And although Francis says he's going to get him out of there in 2 rounds, I don't think that's going to happen. I know it's not going to happen in the first round because both guys are going to be patient. So, again, 1.5 on the over of 2.5 rounds here. My second pick, and the pick you guys have been waiting for, the max play for UFC 270. Let's talk about Brandon Moreno versus Figueiredo. So, the first thing that comes to mind when I talk about these two guys is, you ever notice that like somebody is just a better fighter all around, right? And then there's a rematch or a trilogy and whatnot, and it's like talked about like crazy that the other guy that lost is now doing X, Y, and Z, right? He's training with Henry Cejudo. He's in crazy shape. There's pictures of him in peak condition. His weight cut's gonna be easier this time. He had the weight cut excuse last time. All of these things we're talking about, right? But at the end of the day, what comes to mind to me is Brandon Moreno is just better. I saw it in the second fight, just like I saw it in the first fight. The difference between the first fight and the second fight is Moreno's confidence is through the roof now. He's a much more confident fighter. The first fight, he even said it himself. He walked in there thinking, okay, I got to watch for his guy's power. And he respected him a little bit too much. In that second fight, you saw right from the jump, he was so technical. He was pressuring him. He was hitting him with the jab, that left hook to the body, which I believe is going to be the difference in this third fight. I believe that left hook and that jab is gonna be a huge advantage for Brandon Moreno in this fight. He's just so much more technically sound. I know Figueiredo is probably going to come out with more of a grappling and wrestling heavy approach. However, I don't think it's going to stop Moreno. And think about styles and matchups make fights. And I look at Ciryl Gane, he's just such a tough matchup for Francis. And I look at Brandon Moreno, he is such a tough matchup for Figueiredo because he wants to get people out of there with his power. Moreno's never been finished in the UFC. I can get him at minus 170 when I believe he wins this fight 8 out of 10 times, right? So if you do the math on it, if he wins 8, I make 8 units, right? If he loses 2 times at minus 170, I lose about 3.5 units. It's a huge net positive there. It's a great value play. I believe this line should be minus 250 plus, but I believe that it isn't that big simply because of all the hype we're seeing about Figueiredo and all of his improvements and his conditioning and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, he's going to go in there and Brandon Moreno is going to TKO him late in this fight. He's more technical. He's very driven. He's a humble. He's an absolute technician, and he's one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. And I believe he's going to put him out. I wouldn't be surprised though if he won a decision. But I just think with Figueiredo, with his age, I think he's 34 years old now. The weight cut, I believe that Figueiredo is going to lose this fight, and then his next fight, he's going to go up in weight. That's my final prediction. It is a 5-unit max play. So what that means, when I do my 5-unit max plays, if it was a minus 110 bet, I'm going 5.5 units to win 5. But it's minus 170. I'm not going to give you guys a play and say risk 7, 8 plus units to win 5 units. So it's 5 units, about 5.1 units to win 3 units here, minus 170 on Brandon Moreno to win this fight.